So today, my goal is to talk to you about sustainability, but also how it makes sense for business and socials. So I wanted to begin this presentation by talking to you about IPCC reports, about talking to you about all the events we had this summer, about the weather. And finally, I've seen an article this morning. The title was, "Green Growth is a Contradiction in Terms." This is something I don't agree with, but he's right. The person who wrote this is right. We have to be careful because growth can make us forget what sustainability is and how it is more important. So, just to give you a vision of what we're talking about, Internet produces 900 million tons of CO2 each year. This means that all of us here, and the cloud as we are, produce the same emissions as chemical industry or deforestation. This is huge, and we have to do something about this. So it's up to us, the tech sector, to do better and to find solutions to limit that impact. If I'm talking to you today, is that at Scaleway, we want to share this experience that we have, that actually you can save money while saving energy. And this is what we want to do with you. So, talking about cloud. Cloud is based on data centers. It's actually the raw material of all your businesses, all digital companies. And it represents, 1 to 2%, as it's just written here. It represents 1 to 2% of the world's total electricity used in 2018. This means this is really important, but you have to understand also that in only 3 years, for this figure, the traffic on the internet tripled. And the use of data centers doubled. And the consumption of energy was flat. This means in data centers, we have the ability to improve our impact and to make sure to reduce it as much as we can. So, talking about cloud is talking about tech. And cloud is just in a hypergrowth moment. It's a critical moment. We have, maybe you don't see it because you are maybe in the tech for all the time, but 80% of European companies are still not in the cloud. This means we are really facing an hypergrowth. We have the pandemic situation who increases this, and we also have all the needs on AI that are doubling every 3 months that increase even more the need in data centers and in cloud. So this hypergrowth is going to lead us to have a market which is going to be multiplied by 10 in 10 years. This means we have to control it and to make sure, as the article was saying this morning, that this growth is not going at the contrary of the climate needs. I don't know if you are all convinced by the climate urgency that we have today, but if you are not, you can have in mind something else. The next generation has 2 things in mind: sustainability and responsibility. And those 2 facts are the most important things for them in choosing a company or choosing a service. So, we have this figure that says that green tech startups are expected to grow by 27%. What is important for you to understand is that even though you may not be concerned by climate, the talents and the clients will be, and this is how you will find and you will grow, and this is what we're talking about. We're talking about business. So, question is, what can you do to help? As I was saying, cloud is the raw material of all the technology and all our environments. And cloud is now in a hypergrowth stage. Hypergrowth means 2 things. It's a rush for market share, and it's also a green rush, because we just said it, clients need and ask for green. So, in our industry, what is really important for a data center is the cooling. Okay? This is what consumes the most energy in our data centers, and this is what we have to pay attention to. And in this hypergrowth is the cooling that we have to control. There is 2 ways of cooling. There is electricity consumption with air conditioning, and there's water usage. Those 2 ways of cooling are the ones that we have to control to make sure that we control our impact on the environment. because there is two bias that we have to be careful too. Excessive reliance on air conditioning. We are countries when it's not too hot. We can see it today, and we can see it in Paris also. And wasteful use of water. When we talk about a data center, you can have cooling towers. Cooling towers means big towers with drinking water in it. Actually, 2 million cubic meters of water used each year by a data center that has cooling towers. This is not normal, and this is huge, and we have to do something about this. So, the thing is, you have a role. You have a role because all your companies will be on cloud. And cloud means that you will be hosted in data centers. You have to choose the right data center that is not using too much energy, not using too much water. How can you do this? There are criteria. We have been put in place some indexations that all the data centers should provide you and that you should look at. It's a bit strange when you don't know about it, but we can explain it, and it's quite simple to understand. This is a PUE. PUE is power usage effectiveness. For it to be simple and clear, when you have a data center, you have servers in it, and you have cooling and lights. And when you have 1 kilowatt of power, which is used for a server, this one you can just not do anything about it because you have this 1 kilowatt. But then there is everything around it. And the PUE is calculating the power that you use for 1 kilowatt of a server. So when you have, and let's say we are quite proud of it, 1.18 PUE, this is something that is very valuable. Have in mind that the average in the world is 2.5. For 1 kilowatt server, the average of the data centers use 2.5 kilowatts of energy. This is too much. And this is what that data centers industry has to work on. Then there is something else, because you have, as I just said, you have electricity and you have water. So electricity, you have the PUE. It's quite simple. You have the same for water. It's called WUE. It's simple to pronounce, but it is the same thing. It's the water usage for 1 kilowatt of a server. And this is also very important to control because, of course, these two metrics are completely linked. And you could have a data center which tells you that they have a great PUE, but they're not showing the awful WUE that they have. So you have to choose data centers that can show you the two and prove that they have good figures on it, because this is their real impact on the environment. Scaleway, on our side, we have this great PUE we're very proud of, and we'll talk afterwards. But what we are leading anyway is the fact that we want to aware people about the water usage. This is something that is now illegal in France. You don't have the right to use cooling towers in France. Why? Because it wastes drinking water, but also because it's a risk of Legionella. So this is a huge risk, and we are at Scaleway fighting against it. So just for you to have in mind, we are now in Amsterdam, in North Holland. Because of this hypergrowth, they are planning 5 new data centers. Each new data center will now consume 2 million cubic meters of water each, 10 million. When a human, every year, drinks 1 cubic drinking water. So this is a lot, and this is not normal, and we have to fight against it. So, as I was saying, you are the one to decide. On my side, I come from supply chain. I really don't come from tech. And I know that we have to choose a supplier. And if you choose a supplier and you give criteria, they will change. If customers don't care, the data centers won't care. But if you are asking for it, they will change because they need their customers. So if you do have, you have to keep this in mind. By PUE, by WE, change. Leave your supplier. You can find better. We are at Scaleway. At Scaleway, we think about multi-cloud. And this is something that is really important for me because coming from supply chain, being buyer at the beginning of my career, I know that what is really important is to have not only one supplier, but at least 2. And this is, again, about this is before even climate. This is about business. I don't want to be dependent from one supplier. I want to be able to choose how is working the supplier. I want to be able to move if the supplier is not good, and I want to negotiate the costs. And if you are locked, which is sometimes happening with the cloud providers, then how can you move? How can you choose? So you have a responsibility as tech, as developers, as leaders of companies, to make sure you are capable to move from a supplier to another one. Make sure this way you will control your impact on the environment, and you will control your costs. This multi-cloud approach is really a Scaleway area expertise, because we really think it's the way that everybody in the tech should work on. And for this, the condition which is really important, and you have to work with your technical teams, is that your data should be interoperable and compatible with other cloud companies. This is doable, and you have to think about this. So this was the first very big tip I wanted to give you, because this is the one that concerns us, but there is a lot of other things that you can do in your company to improve your impact. First, maybe you don't know, but tomorrow is beginning of the digital digital cleanup day, and this digital cleanup day is actually a few months period on which people are asked to empty their digital trash. So it's data, it's application, and this is something you can do in your company. Again, we think business, we don't think only your environment. You can have, we did it at Scaleway last year. We decided to make a group, and everyone was having a competition about knowing how and how much data they will empty, and what was our impact. And this was a great moment, because everybody was fighting with this. And this is good for your talents, this is good for your impacts, and this is good for your bottom line. Of course, cloud costs a lot. And if you are emptying the data and unused application, then you save money. And this is, of course, crucial for everyone here. Another thing that I really trust in, or at least I really believe in, would be the right word in English. What I believe in is also make sure that you have a code sobriety. Now we have developers that are working only on cloud. They don't even know the thing that nowadays, before, they were working with one computer, and they had to control themselves on the number of data, the number of database, the number of lines of codes. Now, they can take as much as they want. This is not good, again, for your money, and not good for the environment. Code sobriety is something which is really important. I've now discovered that there are even companies that can help you going into the code of your text and making sure that it is the right way it is done, and it's done the best way for their impacts. Why not, I don't know, create a green dev hackathon or something like this with your teams? Create something that just like, they love to compete, okay? And everyone loves to compete. There can be prizes, and this is a real good way to save money and to save your impact on the world. And also, something that is really important, and that I've worked also a lot with our proper teams, is local associations. Don't just think global. This is perfect. We are leaders in company. You think global. You think far away from you. Where are my customers? I will go into all Europe and then US. The reality is you have local associations who can do great work and can help you doing a lot of things on social business, because this is important, and we really think about it and really want it to be clear for everyone. When we talk about sustainability, it's not only environment. It's also the social part. And you have local associations who are doing great jobs, and you have to work with them, because this is the way our countries, Europe, will be really developing themselves. So, now I have to give you these few tips. What I propose is to tell you what we are doing at Scaleway, and maybe it will give some ideas. We will I will talk to you about the DC5. DC5 is our great DC that we've created a few years before, and which has a great technology. Well, actually, it's a great innovation in some sort of time, because it's the only data center that is using it, and it's the most energy-efficient data center in Europe. But actually, this is a technology that was used by the ancient Egyptians. As simple as this. We just looked around us. And ancient Egyptians were using water to capture the heat of the air. And this is exactly what we are doing. We are now living in countries, to be honest, Amsterdam is like Paris. Average temperature in our countries is 12 degrees. I don't know if you know, but actually a server needs to be between 20 and 30 degrees. So when you live in a country with 12 degrees, all these DCs who show you that they have air conditioning all year, some sort of anormal. So what we decided is to create a DC where we used air from outside. We use the fact that we have the chance to live in countries where we have some fresh air and no need to air condition all the time. So we created this system, taking the fresh air from outside almost all the year, and sometimes in the year, when it's really too hot, when it's above 20 degrees, then we are going to use this ancient Egyptian way of cooling, which is pushing the air through a wet wallpaper, and the water will capture the heat, and this is how we fresh the air. And so we have R&D, which has developed a great system, which enables us to mix the air and to make sure we have always the same temperature. Because of course, I'm sorry, I forget too much my business every day, but you may not know, hardware has to have always the same temperature all the time. So it's not only using the air outside, but making sure if we mix it with hot air, which is given by the servers, no need again to produce anything, just use what we have, you mix it, and you make sure everything is at 25 degrees. Something else about this, we are again looking for the best way to improve our impact on the environment. And so we have looked at what exactly the hardware needs. And hardware needs actually more 28, 25, 29 degrees. It survives well. And it's much better than what is done in the other DCs. And what we can see sometimes is 22 degrees. It's just nothing, but when you think about the fact that you can save cooling for 5 degrees, this is really important. Again, it's really where we are using the more power in our data center. So thanks to this great innovation, we have 90% less water. Of course, it's just a can when the other ones are using these cooling towers, and less energy is actually 40% less energy. And this is how we achieve the PUE of 1.18. What I want you to remember when I talk to you about this, because of course you don't have any data center, so there is no use for you to do this, but what I want you to keep in mind is that actually we weren't looking for a good impact on the environment. This was not our goal at first. At first, our goal was to reduce our invoice on energy. Energy invoicing is huge, and we have to find some ways to reduce it. This was a business point of view. But when you try to be innovative, when you assume adventure, because we have to be honest, at first insurance were not really fan of our new innovation, then this is where you find, at the same time, impact positive on the environment, and great cost saving, because this is the really important fact for our companies. What we also do at Scaleway is working on the servers. I don't know if you know, but most of cloud providers, you have 3 to 5 years of use of a server. This means hardware is put to trash every 3 to 5 years. This is very short. And this is, of course, to make sure that you are at the forefront of the innovation. But what they forget, and again, this is business, and this is environment, is that you have customers for low-range products. And what we have decided is that we've put a lot of time on R&D to make sure that we can reuse the maximum of our hardware, and actually that we can even refurbish it and create new products that will be useful for customers. Of course, maybe not for AI, which will need a great innovation, but we have little needs which will be completely satisfied. And if we talk clearly, this means that we have a good impact on the earth, because of course we are using 2 times more the hardware, so we don't waste as much as they do, but even more and even better for the business. This is hardware which is amortized. This means that we paid it already and it's only benefits. This is how you should think to make sure we have a good impact and we have a good business. And to conclude, yes, I forgot this one. Thank you to the slides. What we are doing with what we throw, because there is a moment, of course, 10 years afterwards, we cannot use it. We are using a local association. We found just across the street, we didn't know them, but they went to us. We found an association which is making work the disadvantaged young people, and we are giving them our hardware. And this way, well, actually, we are not giving them. We are selling them the hardware. So this is, again, some sort of a business. But anyway, we sell, we gain some money, and at the same time, we are really helping these young people to find a work and to develop their competences on what is the future, which means tech and hardware. So to conclude, all the examples I've given are both good for environment and good for business. I think that the secret is to think differently, to make sure you are innovative, to make sure you are thinking always about the bottom line, and to make sure you accept adventure, accept doing things differently from the other ones, take the risk, and this is how you will achieve this type of results. Thank you.